This week on the Ear Scouts podcast, we're sharing our best time-saving tips for your 2026 trip to Walt Disney World. Plus, we're answering your questions about where to start with Lightning Lane, where to find a battery pack that's not like carrying a brick, and which Disney parks you should visit beyond Walt Disney World. We got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Hi ho, everybody. This is Rob with Ear Scouts coming to you from our makeshift studio here in Celebration, Florida. Welcome to episode 12 of the Ear Scouts podcast, where we gather around the virtual campfire to talk about Disney World and Disney parks around the world. With me, as always, here in Celebration is the other half of Ear Scouts, Eric. Hi ho, Eric.
Hi ho, everyone.
Eric will be keeping up with the live chat over on Patreon if you'd like to join us live as we record each and every episode and get access to the exclusive Patreon after party. Head on over to patreon.com/earscouts. Also joining us from her home base in Connecticut, where she is the host of Jessica Scraps over on YouTube. It's our good friend, Jessica. Hi ho, Jessica.
Hi ho, and to all my scrapbookers out there, happy December daily season. You'll know what that means.
And still in snowy Indiana for one more day before he heads down here to sunny Walt Disney World, it's our resident Disney trivia guru, Craig. Hi ho, Craig.
Hi ho, everybody.
Well, let's kick things off like we always do by gathering around the virtual campfire to talk about the latest Disney Parks news. And I'm actually going to kick us off this week because we finally have some very rough details about when that royal paint job will be taking place on Cinderella Castle in Magic Kingdom. After a lengthy argument between the fairy godmothers about whether we should make it pink or make it blue, it is going back to blue. No more pink turrets. It will now return to the classic white and blue color scheme, although we have been promised it is a new color formulation that will prevent it from blending into the sky in your photos, which was apparently a problem with the previous white and blue color combination. So this royal repainting will begin in January of 2026, and it will be complete sometime later in 2026. Could be February, could be December. All we really know is sometime in 2026 it will be completed. I am curious to know what you all think. When do you think the painting is going to be wrapped up?
I'm going to say less than a month. That's going to be my official guess. Yeah, I think it's because they're not adding anything like the decorations like they did for the 50th.
I was going to say 6 months. So,
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So we're in the two extremes here.
I'm going to go with 2 months.
It's not like they can paint during the day either. So this is all going to have to be done at night. So that's another thing to consider.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So as far as I know, they have different sections in the castle. So they have they have number the areas that they have to paint. So it's a whole process as far as I know. So I would say between 3 months to 5 months, I would say.
Well, we'll all find out when the painting is complete. Who was the closest without going over? We'll do Price is Right rules. No one said $1, Bob. So hopefully it's going to be closer to Craig's guess, though, because I think we all want it to be done soon. We should also note that while the painting is going on, the moat will be drained and there will be cranes in the vicinity. But Disney has promised that they will lower the cranes each day by around noon so that you can get some crane-free photos of the half-painted castle while you are here. Craig, what news do you have to share around the virtual campfire this week?
Well, we've got some news coming out of the Polynesian Resort and specifically Trader Sam's Grotto, which is the most excellent tiki bar located in the Polynesian. But it's now going to be opening at 11 a.m. And on top of that, they now have a mobile walk-up list. So you can get on the list using the My Disney Experience app. So in the past, people would start lining up as much as 2 hours before the 3 o'clock opening to make sure they got on the list. Now, I will be staying at the Polynesian later this week, and I'm definitely going to be trying it out, and I will report back for sure how that all works out. But just a reminder about the Grog Grotto is kids are welcome there up until 8 o'clock p.m., and then it becomes adults only. And as always, if you can't get into the Grog Grotto, or if you're waiting for your table to show up on the Grog Grotto, that's a fun one. But if you can't get into the Grog Grotto, you can still get those delicious beverages out at the Tiki Terrace right around the corner outside by the volcano pool. And the Tiki Terrace also opens at 11.
Jessica, I understand you've got some exciting news to share with everyone who is both a Taylor Swift fan and a Disney Parks fan. And I'm guessing that particular Venn diagram has a lot of overlap. What is the exciting news you have to share with the Disney Swifties out there?
Well, as part of the collaboration with the Eras Tour documentary, which is airing on Disney Plus right now, it's I think a 6-episode documentary. Hollywood Studios has 3 original costumes from the Eras Tour on display. And it is, even if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, but if you are a Taylor Swift fan, it's a big deal. But even if you're not, the quality of these costumes, we're talking high-end designer, Broadway style costumes, with the shoes and the accessories and everything there. It's a really cool display to see the artistry of that, and it is artistry. The beading alone is amazing. And one of them is the snake costume from her, I think, Reputation song, but it's amazing. Those will be there until January 23rd. So if you're going in January, please, and you're a Taylor Swift fan, don't forget to go. It's in the area that shows the Walt Disney documentary.
It's inside Walt Disney Presents, and
Walt Disney Presents, yeah.
The One Man's Dream.
Yeah, One Man's Dream. So that area also in general is really cool. We love it. They have the Abe Lincoln animatronic there, kind of disassembled, but they have a rotating display. They had the Muppets Christmas Carol outfits there for Christmas, but right now they have the Eras Tour. It'll be there till the 23rd. So if you're a Swiftie and you're listening to this, get to Hollywood Studios, go back there and see you some really cool costumes.
Before we dive into this week's Pressed Penny discussion, I want to give everyone a quick scheduling update. So the holidays have our calendars all scattered. This episode is actually going to be airing late this week. So as you're listening to this, if you're not watching it live right now, you're going to be hearing it after Christmas, so that we can all spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with our friends and family. But we will be recording a special episode live on Patreon this coming Monday at 7 p.m. So a week from today, we will still have another live recording on Patreon. And that episode will be all about the things we are most excited about for Disney Parks in 2026. It will be a mini cast, and it will be available wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on January 7th, which is our usual Wednesday. And assuming all goes according to plan, that will return us to our normal weekly schedule. So we'll have a podcast every week on Wednesdays from there going forward. And with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, it is time for a segment we like to call Pressed Penny for Your Thoughts, where we take a deep dive on a particular topic or question. And this week is all about saving time on your next trip to Walt Disney World. There is so much to do and never enough time to do it all in your Disney vacation. But we want to share some of our best tips to help you get some of that time back so you can do more, relax more, and enjoy more special moments in 2026. Craig, I actually want to start with you this week because one of the tips you shared when we were planning this episode is probably the most important, and it's something you need to do before you even leave for your trip. What is your first time-saving tip for us?
Yeah, so this one is studying ahead of time, because that will save you so much time in the back end. And remember, on a Disney vacation, time is literally money. Um, it does seem like a no-brainer, but not knowing some of the basics like park hours, parade, fireworks times, that can really waste a lot of your time. Just this last week, I had a reservation for Beacon Barrel around the same time as the Festival of Fantasy parade, and I didn't realize it. I didn't think about it. So I was staying at the contemporary. So I was just walking over, and I had plenty of time to walk over there. And I get there, I go to the left tunnel under the train tracks, and there's the parade, and there's no way you can get around that over there. So I had to like come back around, go on the right side, go up the shops there. Um, and I still made it on time because I hate to be late. So again, just check the app, check it often, because as we've talked about before, park hours and show times can just change at a moment's notice.
And even, I mean, that's a perfect example because that's one of those things. If you've not ever been to Walt Disney World, it might not even occur to you that a parade would stop you from being able to get from point A to point B. And
Mhm.
those are the kind of things that you'll learn when you do a little bit of research. You check out some blogs and some videos on YouTube about park planning and just kind of know the things to look out for. And the other thing too, you probably want to see that parade, right? So make sure that you're not booking things that are going to completely overlap both of the parade times that day. You wouldn't be able to see it. But um, I think that is probably the most important tip. And it's the one thing that so many people who are first time visitors just have no idea. They think to themselves, it's a theme park. Do I really need to do homework for a theme park? And Disney's special. I mean, you're definitely going to have a much better experience and save yourself a lot of time if you do that homework. Jessica, I love how your first tip really kind of dovetails with Craig's, and it's a great thing for people to know about when they're doing that planning. What is your first time saver for us?
So my time saver has to do with the fact of knowing what is happening at the parks every day and then creating a reminder to yourself. So we have in the My Disney Experience app something called My Plans. And most of the time we expect to see things like what park we're going to, what lightning lanes we have, and what dinner reservations or lunch reservations we have. That's what kind of gets automatically loaded. One of the things you can do is if you go to the website, so the Walt Disney World website on a normal web browser, and you look up entertainment, including characters, you can actually add to your My Plans for that specific day, and you can go into the future a specific time to meet a character or to see a band or a show or entertainment. My big example of this is John and I are huge fans of Command Performance. Command Performance is the British cover band that plays in the UK Pavilion in Epcot. They are not there every day, and their hours, believe it or not, are not consistent day to day. They have different hours on the weekend than they do on the weekdays. And you can actually go in and say, I want to see Command Performance. Okay, what days are they playing? They're playing on a Thursday. They're playing on actually, they don't play on a Thursday, so I won't use that example. They're playing on a Friday. They're playing on a Friday at 3, 4, 5:30, 7:45, and 8:30. Don't know why it's 7:45, but that's the one we're going to watch. I can say, select Friday, 7:45, select the people I want and say, add it to my plans. And then when I look at my Disney Experience app, it will show me what I want to do. And that's just a visual reminder of what your plans are. Then you can plan your lightning lanes around that. So I can try to get a Remy around around 7:30. And then I could go ride Remy's and then go see Command Performance, or see Command Performance and then get Remy. And I could be in the right area at the right time to do two things. And to me, that ability to add the entertainment and characters to the My Plans was a game changer for me because it allowed me to kind of plan my route so I'm not crisscrossing. And that was huge.
Yeah, I really wish they would take that a step further so you could add your own notes because I have a spa appointment. And as far as I can tell, there's no way of getting that into the My Plans list.
So you can add your own notes.
Oh,
You can
you
actually
can.
add notes. So in the My Plans page on the My Disney Experience section of the website, you can add notes with times. That's how you can add that's how you can add the parties, because your parties don't show up in My Plans, but you can add a note. So it's actually in the My Disney Experience section of the website, not of the app, of
Yeah.
the website. You can add notes that will then show up in your My Plans. That's a great one, Craig. So if you have things that are not technically my planable, whatever that, there's a word that I'm not getting there. Um, but you can do that by adding your own personal notes. Now, caveat to that, Disneyland's version of this does not allow you to add notes. Disneyland works almost identically for this process, with the exception of they don't have the ability to add personalized notes, because that's what we found out when we went to Disneyland. But in Disneyland, you can still add entertainment and characters to your My Plans, just like you can at Disney World. And to me, it's a game changer.
I think that what I love most about this tip is I think so many people have no idea that there are capabilities of My Disney Experience beyond what you can access on the app.
Mhm.
And that's just one of several. I mean, you just mentioned two, actually, being able to add the customized notes in addition to being able to add entertainment that's not normally easy to add. But also, there's certain settings, and we talked about this in a previous episode. If you're linked with a lot of your friends and family and you're seeing a lot of their stuff kind of cluttering up your view, those are settings that you can change on the web that you cannot change on the directly on the app necessarily. So you only want to see certain things, that's something else you can do only from the web. My first tip is also something that you need to be thinking about when you are making those plans. And it's when you want to ride the most popular rides in each park you're visiting, you need to really plan out the best time to do that to save yourself a ton of time. Now, for me, I'm not a huge fan of planning out to the minute what I'm going to be doing, but I do like to have a rough outline of when I'm going to do key attractions. These are the rides that you can just tell by looking at the app in advance of your visit that they have some of the longest waits in the park. And I like to have an idea of when I'm going to do those, because those are the things that really, if you don't plan them correctly, can eat up all of your day. And it's another thing that I think people don't think about is if you just go in and wing it, if you just kind of say, "Oh, I'll just kind of go in and do what makes sense." The thing is, everybody else who is also winging it is probably going to have similar thoughts. And that's actually the reason why so many wait times get so long at certain, the same times each day. It's because that's what happens when everybody is kind of winging it. They're just kind of doing what seems to make sense and they end up all in the same place. My goal in my Disney day is always to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing because that's what I'm going to get shorter waits. And then when all those folks who are doing the same thing start to do these things that I've already done, then I'm going to go and kind of hopefully get some shorter waits on the things that they were doing earlier. Now, you do kind of have to do your homework on this. There's not really, we couldn't in an episode go through every single ride and tell you the best time to do it. However, there are definitely resources online and there's videos you can watch that'll kind of teach you that information. But I do have a couple of kind of hard and fast rules that are helpful, even if you haven't done that research. Number one is each park kind of has one or two rides that are the peak, most popular, longest wait rides at Hollywood Studios. It's definitely Slinky Dog Dash and Rise of the Resistance. At Magic Kingdom, it is Tron and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, probably. Over at Epcot, it's definitely Guardians of the Galaxy right now, and to a lesser extent, Test Track. And at Animal Kingdom, it's Flight of Passage. So these are kind of like your A tier rides, your A list, your E ticket attractions, if you want to use the old Disney terminology. Those rides are great to do first thing if you have early entry, and that's the first ride that you're going to do, and you're going to get there right when early entry starts. That's a great plan. However, if you don't have early entry, that is still where everyone thinks they should be going because they think, oh, I'm here early. The waits are going to be lower. I should go to those most popular attractions. Generally speaking, that's actually a terrible plan because that's what everyone else is doing. And all those folks who went in for early entry, they're already there. So that line is probably already long. What I think is a better plan if you're not there for early entry is to kind of do those second tier rides that are still going to have really long waits later in the day, like Jungle Cruise at Magic Kingdom, or over at Animal Kingdom, something like Everest, or at Hollywood Studios, Tower of Terror is a good one. These are attractions that may get really long waits later in the day if it's busy, but won't typically have crazy long waits right as the park is opening. So think about those kind of just below the top tier for that. And then the last little thing I want to share is if it's a ride that you weren't able to fit into your day and you want to be able to do it without burning up all of your park time, another trick that I use all the time, I will ride that ride just before the park closes. So the park closes at 10 o'clock. You get in line at 9:59 and 30 seconds. And the beauty of that is twofold. Number one, it's probably going to be among the shortest wait times of the day. A lot of times they'll even inflate that wait time on the sign. They'll just kind of stop updating it so it looks like it's a longer wait than it really is. But the other thing that's great, no matter how long that wait is, you are not burning your park time. The park is closed at that point. So if you weren't in line for something, you'd basically just be leaving the park. So this is a great way to kind of extend your park time. It is important to note, however, there is a risk with this, and that is if the attraction goes down during that wait,
Mm.
you're not going to get to ride it. So and Rise to Resistance is one of the worst for this. I mean, it's a very temperamental attraction. You look at Rise to Resistance funny, it goes down. So you do want to just keep in mind whatever you plan to use this trick for, there is a risk that possibly you won't be able to ride it. But most attractions are pretty robust, and you won't have that issue. But I do think that's important to think about.
So on the My Disney Experience app, when you go to a attraction, it has like the wait time profile on that. Is that real or is that like a figment of Disney's imagination?
I think it's real-ish. I think that for me, I tend to trust the data on sites like Thrill Data a little bit more because I like to. So Disney doesn't show their math. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like Disney just kind of gives a rough estimation that it's not clear what that's based on. And what I love
Okay.
about Thrill Data is I can go in and I can actually choose the data that I want to base it on. I can look
Hmm.
at the past week only. If it seems like this week is going to be like the week previous, I can kind of just look at that data. And Disney may do that. I don't know though. You know what I mean? I can't see what Disney's using there. Maybe Disney's using an annual aggregate, right?
Hmm.
Because they have the whole year of data, but that might not mean anything. Eric, I do want to know. So I was talking a little bit about when are the best times to do rides, because that's kind of my wheelhouse when I'm in the parks. When do you think is the best time for people to do things like character interactions, or if they wanted to get some photos taken with the shortest waits? One of the times that they should start sort of thinking about doing those in the course of their day.
Starting with the photo pass, like the best options are either like early in the morning, before rope drop, like we tend to have like very short lines, or like later in the night. Like if you want no one in your photos, later in the night is going to be a good bet for you as well. Um, for characters, I think your best option is going to be, for the meet and greets. Your best option is going to be during the parades. Like it drags so many people to the hub or to the main area that like I have seen uh, wait times for to meet Mickey and Minnie for sorry to meet Mickey for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and compared to the hour or 45 minutes that people
Hmm.
tend to wait for it. So those are the best times, I will say, or during the fireworks. Yeah.
All right. So now we've done our planning. Craig, what is the first time saving tip for when we actually arrive in Orlando?
Okay, I would have to say, like, I really like how all of our tips so far, especially, have nothing to do with spending extra money. So these are
Mm.
things that everyone can do. However, this one does involve money, but there's no way around it. You have to get from the airport to Disney, and there's no free options at the moment. But my tip is to avoid the buses like Mears and Lynx to and from the airport. Buses take a very long time to get to your resort, depending on how many stops they make, and they can take up to an hour and a half by the time you finally get loaded on and get off the bus at your resort. My favorite is Uber or Lyft. It's usually around $45 to $55. The nice thing about that is if you have a group of 3 or 4 people and you all fit in one car, that splits it up. Um, but Mears, like for adults, it's $16 and kids 4 to 9 is $13, and everyone has to have a ticket, so that adds up. Um, and Lynx is the other option. That's the local Orlando buses, and there is a route. I think it's only $2 or $3, but it only goes to Disney Springs, and then you'd have to transfer to a resort bus to get to your resort. However, you can't take luggage on a Disney bus. That's very important to know.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if you're a light traveler, you're by yourself and you got a backpack and that's it, that might be a great way to save a lot of money. It's not going to save you time, but it would definitely save you money. Um, so yeah, again, I just can't recommend the buses, but I am coming back in January for a solo trip and staying off property. So I might try. I might just try the links just to experience it, get to Disney Springs, and then maybe take a lift.
You don't need to do that for us.
Yeah, I
I
None of us,
know.
none of us really. You don't have to do that. I mean, we appreciate it, but I think the entire community here would be like, Craig, we're okay if you don't do that.
I'm just letting you know what I'm willing to do for y'all.
Okay.
Eric, I think you've had some experience using the Lynx bus before. Would you recommend someone use Lynx to get from the airport to
Nope.
Disney World?
Nope.
Jessica, I think you actually have a similar tip that is about transportation, but this one is once you've actually gotten to Walt Disney World. What is your transportation related tip?
So I know we talked, I think, last episode or the episode before about what's your favorite resort, and ours is Contemporary. So we stay there quite a bit. And I'll just say, never, if you're on a time saving mission, do anything but walk. Walk from the Contemporary to Magic Kingdom, walk from Magic Kingdom to the Contemporary. If you have dinner reservations, if you have whatever it is at the Contemporary, or if you want to get to Magic Kingdom, never do anything else but walk.
Yeah.
It's that monorail is particularly in the morning. Now, once you hit, I would say 11 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a much smoother ride, but it can be backed up 2, 3, 4 monorails worth of people.
Yeah, I was just at Bay Lake Tower last week, and I agree. And the other nice thing is they have their own security booth.
Mhm.
I mean, you fly through security. So, and I plan on walking when I'm at the Polynesian later this week.
I would actually say not always, but pretty much always when there is a walking path option, that may not be the most convenient for getting to the parks. Obviously, it may be a long walk, but it is almost always the fastest. If you're concerned about time, um,
Mhm.
unless you time the monorail exactly right, walking from Grand Floridian is probably faster than taking the monorail, especially at peak times. It's definitely faster than taking the boat. And
Mhm.
over at Studios, the walking path between Epcot and Studios it's a long walk. It's a hike. And it's not something you might want to do in the middle of your park day where you've been doing a lot of walking. But if time is what you're concerned about, it beats the Skyliner, it beats the boat, it beats the bus. I think walking is usually the fastest route to get from that Epcot resort area to Studios.
We did that walk once because of time, and it is definitely the hottest walk on the sun, but it's the fastest. And we
Mhm.
made a reservation that we would not have made trying to wait for the boat. So,
Yeah.
and I think the Skyliner was down then.
And this is actually the perfect segue because Craig, your next tip is actually about walking.
It is, and it is to use Google or Apple Maps or wherever your favorite map app is to find the quickest walking path. If you're not aware, on both apps, there's like a little walking man you can hit other than a car or a bus, and it'll show you the fastest walking path. Um, So that's how I learned. Like, if you come in from going to Epcot from International Gateway, it's faster to go the UK route if you're going to get to Frozen, the clockwise route, than it is to go around France. Um, so I have used that. It's like, okay, what's the fastest way to get here? Because some of those paths are weird. Now I will add, and Eric brought this up actually, but um, be aware that the map apps do not necessarily know what the backstage areas are. So be aware that because you might be directed to a place you're not supposed to be.
So what you're telling me, Craig, is that Eric and I did not need to repeatedly leave from the same point and test both paths ourselves on foot to see which one was faster. We could have just used Google for that.
Yeah, I guess you
Much more
could have.
boring content, though. I
You're
mean,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a lot more boring. We preferred the way you did it.
Okay. Well, we haven't talked much about food yet. And I have a tip that can definitely save you a ton of time when you're grabbing a quick bite to eat in the parks. And that is to use mobile order, and more specifically, to use mobile order during off peak meal times. So, mobile order is when you go through the Disney app, and instead of waiting in a long line to place your order, you just use your phone and you order it like you're ordering Uber Eats, but you do it through the Disney app, and it's going to tell you to push a little button and let them know when you're there, and then they'll start preparing your order once you've arrived. However, what I have learned from doing this over years is number one, if you order during peak meal times, it can still be sometimes we've waited as much as an hour during really
Ooh.
crazy, yes, during really crazy days, like during the holidays. If you order lunch at 12:30, you're going to have a really long wait. So the combination though of ordering at off peak times, so like say maybe have an early lunch or a really late lunch, uh, that makes a huge difference. And the other thing that we do is we will push that button that says that we're there before we're actually there. So we'll do it when we're one land away. We'll go ahead and punch it. And usually every now and then the order's ready before we get there, but it is rare. So usually if you're about a land away and you're walking over, just go ahead and punch it. Um, the other thing that's good to know, if it's ice cream, they're not going to serve the ice cream until you're physically there. Even if you've pushed the button, um, they're not, so you don't have to worry about things like becoming a puddle, generally speaking. But yeah, so I wouldn't push it too early. You don't want to, like your food to get cold, but I always use that walking time over to have the food ideally ready when we get there, and that just saves a lot of time.
Can I add to that just a second and say,
Yeah.
if you are like me and you are the collectible person, so a lot of times, particularly at Katsaka's Kettle in the Galaxy's Edge or at Pinocchio's Village House, you can get either the sippers or the popcorn buckets on mobile order as well. And if you don't want to wait in some of the silly lines to get the new Stormtrooper helmet popcorn bucket, I mean, I don't know who owns two of those, but you can mobile order them, and that's a huge time saver because those lines can be almost as bad as the lunch line. So just remember, sometimes those collectibles are also available on mobile order at certain locations, and you can look that up as well. That's a huge time saver for those of you that want to do the mobile order, the collectibles. I got my little drummer boy sipper at Pinocchio's Village House during the Christmas party on mobile order, and I didn't have to wait in the line.
We were at Disney Springs last week as well, and you could just tell like all the lines for all the casual quick service places were huge. So I just got on the app, saw who still had mobile ordering that was within a good acceptable time frame, and we ended up just going to BB Wolf's for hot dogs
Mhm.
because we had to eat, but we didn't have to wait very long either. So that's just another good tip. Just see what the mobile order places are like if you were really you know, are trying to save time or you need to get somewhere and you just need to get something in your stomach.
Yeah. One other thing that I will mention about mobile order, we talk a lot in our videos about what we call playing the slots, which is basically where you refresh and try to get a better return time on a lightning lane. But that same trick actually works with mobile order. So if you've placed a mobile order and the food, your window of your pickup time is a little bit far in the future and you want to shave some time off of that, you can modify your arrival time and you just keep kind of checking and seeing if there's a better time. If there's not, you back out and then you do it again and you do it again. And what happens is a lot of times someone might be kind of contemplating an order, right? They've got one of those slots held up, but then they decide they're not going to order it. That slot comes back into play many times. I have a 30 minutes left on my wait before I'm gonna be able to pick up my order, and I just sort of keep checking, and boom, a slot comes open for right that moment. So
Hmm.
that right there saves you 30 minutes of waiting to be able to go pick up your food. Craig, you have actually another food related tip for saving some time. This one's related to breakfast, right?
Yeah, and it's just have some breakfast items ready for you in your room so you can get the most important meal of the day while everyone is getting ready, and you won't waste time in a potentially long line because you will see any place that sells breakfast items or coffee in the morning. Surprisingly, that's when they're the busiest. So that's just one thing I always try to plan ahead and make sure that I have some kind of food to eat while we're getting ready before we jump out first thing in the morning.
Jessica, what is your tip for saving time when it comes to food?
So I'm a big believer in the places that Disney lets you eat, you should eat. So I always try to get, we got the Buffalo spring rolls at the Jollywood Nights, and we ate them while in line to meet a character, eat them while we were waiting for Glisten. There are many lines, character lines that are outside, and many attractions actually. So I think like Beauty and the Beast Theater, Indiana Jones, Tiki Room lets you bring in Dole Whip. There are a
Mhm.
lot of shows that actually let you bring food in. Take advantage of that and have a mealtime with an attraction. Have a mealtime with entertainment. Or if it's a line you can take food with you, bring your food, eat your handheld, and use that time wisely. Now, I understand a lot of people like to take your meal time to sit and relax, but we're specifically talking about time to saving tips. And to me, sometimes the time saving tip is to eat on the go. And that's one of the things that I've done when we really have just 1 or 2 days that we need to pack it all in. We will tell everybody we're getting handheld food and we're eating it while we're waiting for whatever. And that to me is, it's just, it makes it, you don't realize how much time you waste sitting down inside a mobile order restaurant when you could get those spring rolls and stand in line.
So for me, I don't usually do it at a meal time, but I plan a snack to eat it in line. Like that will be, I don't like to sit and snack, but I love kind of having my snack while I'm waiting in line because it makes waiting in line much more pleasant too, right? I mean,
Mhm.
Hmm.
w- everything is better with a little treat.
Yeah, we just went and got the cheeseburger spring rolls from the cart in Adventureland. And that had a huge line, but boy, did it move fast. I mean, they're all right. They're just
Hmm.
passing them out. You pay, and they hand it to you. And then we went to the Tiki Room, and it was like best dinner theater ever.
So, one other thing that we haven't talked about yet is fireworks, specifically watching Happily Ever After at Magic Kingdom. And I do have a couple of tips for that. The first is that if you don't want to spend a huge amount of your time holding a spot, which you're there on a busy day, that's going to be a reality. If you want to be like right there in the hub in front of the castle, people are going to be camped out crazy early for that. But if you want to avoid that, what I recommend doing, consider watching the show from Main Street itself. And I think the ideal spot is kind of midway down Main Street, roughly about where the bakery ends, like right between like sort of the bakery, the Main Street bakery, and you'll see like the Arebus Brothers, like kind of gift shop there. Um, in that kind of vicinity there, you're going to get a great view. It doesn't fill up typically unless it's a crazy busy day. It doesn't usually fill up until, 15, 20 minutes before the fireworks are going to start. You'll still be able to squeeze in there. And The view is actually really cool because not only do you see, you're close enough to be able to really make out the projections on the castle, but what a lot of folks don't realize is the show, it encompasses Main Street as well. So there are projections along Main Street. There's light effects that happen on Main Street, and it's kind of cool to take in all of the fireworks from that distance. You can kind of really see everything where it's kind of harder to see those peripheral fireworks when you're up really close. So I think that's a great kind of last minute fireworks spot. The other tip that I have, and this is more related to what you should do after the fireworks, and that is never, ever leave Magic Kingdom right after the fireworks. And this kind of goes hand in hand with that thing I told you about earlier about whenever everyone else is doing something, you probably don't want to be doing that thing at that same time. Everybody leaves Magic Kingdom after the fireworks. I do not know why, because you will spend, no joke, on a busy day right after the fireworks, you will spend sometimes 35, 45, maybe even an hour, minutes to an hour waiting on the ferry or waiting on the monorail. It is just madness out there. And guess what? While everybody's in those massive lines to leave, the lines inside to ride the attractions are surprisingly short. So I don't know. For me, I'd much rather be in a 15, 20-minute line to ride one of my favorite rides in Magic Kingdom rather than a 45-minute to hour long line that won't be there later that night just to leave. So the other thing that's really great is you can kind of plan. I wouldn't plan to do Tron during this period. Tron is the exception to the rule because so many people like to do that one once it's dark. But almost every other attraction, the wait times become greatly reduced, especially attractions that appeal to the really little ones, right? Like Peter Pan's Flight or Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, anything in Storybook Circus. I mean, those lands are a ghost town after the fireworks, and it's just a great opportunity if you love those rides. Uh, or you've got kids who are night owls and can stay up late. That's the best time to do those attractions, is right after the fireworks. So don't leave, stick around and get short waits on rides instead of long waits on transportation to leave. Craig, I think you had another tip that was related to getting short waits on rides.
And yes, it is to use that single rider line whenever possible. Of course, I have a few caveats with that. Of course, you should know that you will very likely be split up if you're with somebody. That's just part of it. Also, depending on the ride, you may miss a big part of the queue and also the story. There are 6 rides that have single riders. In Epcot, we have Test Track and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. Those are no brainers. The queues are not anything special, especially the new Test Track. I think it's not inspiring at all, but you can definitely save a lot of time on those too. At Animal Kingdom is Expedition Everest. I would call that a no-brainer, but if you've never gone through the actual queue and you're a fan of just beautiful queues and the storyline actually comes to life in there, if you never knew, there is a storyline on Expedition Everest. But I also have a feeling that most people, after they ride that, they're not like, oh, that didn't make sense. What was that story? I mean, no, it's a roller coaster. So yeah, use that single rider line. Um, and now we have 3 in Hollywood Studios. One, Rise of the Resistance, has one now. And here's where you will lose a lot of the pre-show and the story if you do the single rider line. So if it's your first time riding, I definitely do not recommend the single rider line at all. Don't do it. But if you've been on many times, you just want to do like the ride portion. Where you enter is in the Stormtrooper room. That's where the single riders join with the regular queue. And then you get into the interrogation rooms, and then you get to ride the rest of the ride at least. So
I heard from someone that there was some talk that I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I haven't done that single rider queue. Um, but I thought that they changed it so that the single rider queue boarded before the
So they did the single rider line for a little while where you got to do the and I'm blanking on his name, so that makes me horrible. You got to do the mission before you get to
transport?
the transport before you get to the stormtroopers. But
Mhm.
I did the last time I was there, I think they were bypassing it again. So I
Okay.
think they have the option to do it either way, and I have a feeling depending on crowds, they can change it, but I would go a step farther than Craig's going and say, never do the single rider line on Rise of the Resistance. You're missing the experience of that one. You have the possibility of missing the experience.
Yes.
That's the one that I never understood why they created a single rider line. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's no single
Yeah.
rider option for that one.
The other single rider line that I will avoid, it's a rock and roller coaster.
Yeah.
That one usually like it's
Mhm.
the wait time gets longer than in the single rider line than the standby line, regular standby line. So uh probably I don't think that's going to be changing the Muppets right now. But
It's not going to
yeah.
change. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
It's the rule that I think of for single rider that if it's an attraction that loads more than two people into a vehicle space, um, so things like Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Rise of the Resistance, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, vehicles that have room for more than two people in a row, those are great single rider lines to get into because they have way more opportunities to feed people from that single rider line and fill out a vehicle. So, Rock and Roller Coaster, only if a party is an odd numbered party does someone get to go onto the vehicle. And even then, it's only going to be one person going onto the vehicle from the single rider line. Whereas think about something like Rise of the Resistance, right? Where maybe you have a party of, 4 and there's room for 6. Same thing with Smuggler's Run. It could
Mhm.
be 2 people coming through from the single rider line. And those you may even end up with someone else in your party if you just happen to be lucky and you're the 2 people that get pulled in. I actually see that happen all the time on Smuggler's Run. So it's really about the ride vehicle, I think, as to whether or not single rider ends up making sense. And that's why Expedition Everest, it usually, I agree with you, Craig, usually it's faster because just the volume on that attraction, they send through so many trains so quickly and it's such a long train. But if you're there on peak days, I have definitely seen times, and you can ask the cast member, they'll usually tell you, they'll be like, yeah, right now this single rider line is probably longer than your regular
Mhm.
wait. So,
Oh wow.
and that, yeah, it happens for sure. So that's one of those things that you might just want to, judge from the line when you get there. If it's one of those where it's just 2 per row,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it's hit or miss.
Yeah, even at Rock and Roller Coaster, they will announce that and there's signs that say you may wait longer than standby. So it's messed up. So yeah, there's so Rock and Roller Coaster is a big old nope.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned Millennium Falcon, which Smuggler's Run, which also has a single riders line. You do lose a little of the plot, and you're not going to get a choice of what you're going to do. If you want to be the pilot, if you're in a single rider, that's probably not going to happen unless you're with me because I don't want to be pilot. That's you don't want me to be the
Mm-mm.
pilot, I guess is what I'm saying. Um, but yeah, and the other thing about Smuggler's Run, it's always more fun if you know people and you're competing against each other, and especially if you know the pilot, so you can yell at them if they're messing up. So that's always just a fun family thing to do.
How is the Remy's line?
Oh,
Curious about
that's
that since it
awesome.
opened. Is
That
it
one
on?
that
Oh,
one is
cool.
great. That one is
Yeah.
like really, really good.
So, Jessica, I think you had another ride-related time-saving tip for us.
I do, and this may be a little controversial, so I'll take it. I'll take the heat, man. Um, I think it's very important, even in the day and age of lightning lanes, which are extremely good for time saving, to remember that sometimes the most time saving thing you can do is not zigzag. So you look at the line for Jungle Cruise, and it is 30 minutes, but you could get a lightning lane for, you know, test track or not test track, it's a Tomorrowland Speedway right now, and you could ride it right now. The walk to Tomorrowland Speedway to ride that ride is not going to help you. It's better to just go ahead, take the 30 minutes in the Jungle Cruise line and walk the park in a normal fashion. I really find, particularly in Magic Kingdom and particularly in Hollywood Studios, if I can figure out ways to do the lands at the same time and not be walking back and forth, I will save more time, even if it means I got a Slinky Dog, but I didn't get a Toy Story Mania. I'll suck it up and I'll wait in Toy Story Mania because it's okay because I don't have to come back to that part of the park. I think we get so excited about playing the slots and we get so excited about getting all the lightning lanes from time savings. Land movement is as time takes as much time as waiting in a line. So that's just my tip. I really tend to do a healthy combination. I'm usually half and half of lightning lane and standby. And John and I set a time limit of, we usually say 35 minutes. And as long as the line's less than 35 minutes, I'll do any line for 35 minutes. And if I'm there, and as long as that's it, and then I've been able to modify a lightning lane for that ride later in the day and use it for something else because I was able to do it standby. So that's just my tip. And like I said, a little controversial, but I really think a good combination of standby and lightning lane can help you save time.
I don't think it should be controversial because I completely agree. I think when we first started doing the videos, back then it was Genie, which was a different kind of strategy you had to play with Genie than you do with Lightning Lane. But with Lightning Lane, I think standby queues make a lot of sense because also it's a great time, right? When you're waiting for, especially if it's only like a 35, 40-minute wait, that's the perfect time to be kind of nudging your lightning lanes for what you're going to do ahead around, right? So maybe if you're to use your example, right? If you're already in Adventureland, maybe you have a lightning lane for pirates that's an hour from now or an hour and a half from now. While you're waiting in that Jungle Cruise line, you can probably back pirates up, right? To be able to continue to move through in that direction of the park rather than having to zigzag. And so, number one, you crossed Jungle Cruise off your list. You don't have to worry about booking that because you waited in the standby queue. But number two, it gave you some time to really tailor your experiences that were coming next, so you won't be doing as much crisscrossing. So I think it's a great strategy to add a little bit of standby into a
Mhm.
lightning lane day. Well, sadly, those are the last time saving tips we have time to share today because now it is time to answer your questions from YouTube, Patreon, and the forum at earscouts.com. Jessica, why don't you start us off this week because we tend to get tunnel focused on Walt Disney World, and you have a question about the world beyond Walt Disney World.
I do. June Aiden Sari on YouTube asks, are there any scenarios where you would recommend Disneyland over Disney World? And I'm going to give my answer, then I think we'll open it up and do an all skate because I think it'd be interesting to hear what everyone thinks. But my answer is two reasons. The number one reason is if you have a smaller amount of time. I do think that Disneyland can be done beautifully and completely in 3 days. And if you have just a 3-day vacation and you're choosing to go to Disney World or Disneyland and it's kind of a once in a lifetime trip and all of these things, I do believe you will enjoy and not miss anything at Disneyland. And I think that just makes when you feel like you haven't missed anything, it just makes the experience better. So one of the reasons I would choose Disneyland over Disney World is if you only had 2 to 3 days and you wanted to fit everything in and it was going to be this dream vacation, I might choose Disneyland over Disney World. The second reason is if you have a particular nighttime event that really matters to you, and they have quite a few at Disneyland that are what I would say epic. So, for example, they have Star Wars nights. If you're a huge Star Wars fans, you get to do things that you would never do at Disney World. They have characters they'll never have at Disney World. They have events and food and shows and music that you're never going to get at Disney World. And to go there for that is amazing. They also have Pride Night, Sweetheart Night. They've had Princess Night. They've had Pixar Nights. They have all of these wonderful shows that if those are the characters or the events that mean something to you, Oogie Boogie Bash is obviously a big one that meant something to us, and I went to it this year, and it changed my opinion about the movie. It changed my opinion about Disneyland. It was just this amazing event. But look at some of the nighttime events at Disneyland, and if one of those really speaks to you, they are worth the money, they are worth the trip, and they will make a difference. If you look at those nighttime events and you say, "Yeah, I don't they're the characters as," then maybe not. But those are the 2 specific reasons, and the question was, why would you choose Disneyland over Disney World? Those are the 2 specific reasons that I would choose Disneyland over Disney World. So I don't know, Craig, what about you? Do you have any opinion on that?
Well, I mean, I would just say if you've never been to Disneyland, you need to go.
Mhm.
I mean, it's if you're a Disney lover and you love the parks at Disney World, you really should go to Disneyland just to experience at least once. One of my favorite things about it is it just when you walk in, it just feels like there's so much history. You almost feel like Walt was there because you've seen pictures of him there. Um,
Mhm.
and it has pretty much everything, like a lot of the major attractions that Disney World has, but they're just compact and you don't have to walk as far to get them. You don't have to take buses to different parks to get to them. Um, yeah, that's definitely the thing I like about Disneyland. It's just more intimate. It feels in the history just as which is of course important to me. So yeah, if you've never done it, you owe it to yourself to make a trip.
Eric, why would you pick Disneyland over Disney World for a trip?
Well, if you have not visited any of them, I will start with Disneyland. Just so, well, again, you can feel the soul of the place, as Craig just mentioned. Like you can see like
Mhm.
what Walt Disney actually like work on. Like you can feel it over there. And also like once you see the castle from one castle one sorry once you see the castle from Disneyland and then you go to Disney World, you can have like that wow effect instead of the this looks tiny, like you know.
Yeah.
um
Mhm.
well, that will be one of the reasons. One of the other reason that I will pick Disneyland over Disney World though will be like the characters. If you are really into characters, like Disneyland, by all means, it's way better.
I think that's a really great point, and I think the thing with Disneyland, uh, because it's there in the greater Los Angeles area, I've learned never say that Disneyland is in Los Angeles because it is in Anaheim,
It's in
which
Anaheim.
those of us who've lived in large cities and we think, oh, well, those sort of peripheral, like I live in Celebration, but I also say Orlando. No, Anaheim is not part of Los Angeles. It is its own thing. But uh, if you're in that greater Los Angeles area, there are so many incredibly talented people who live there because they want to become actors, right? That's their goal, and they see that performance in the park. Not only, of course, do they care about the guest experience, that's the heart of it. It's also there's definitely a part of it where I think they know there's an opportunity that maybe there's a casting director in that crew of folks coming through the attraction, and some of the ride, I mean, I'm talking not even just the characters, but my favorite memory from Disneyland, a trip we took recently, it was on the Tower of Terror attraction, which they have turned it into a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. And this, you know how there's the person who loads you onto the vehicle, and sometimes they do a little shtick here at Disney World, like as the doors are closing, maybe they'll make a face or something, to kind of play along with the theme of the attraction. This guy took it to 11. I mean, as the doors were closing, he did a full pratfall, like, onto the ground. I mean, it was people applauded when, his performance was so good. And that happens all the time at Disney World. I mean, I'm sorry, Disney World, at Disneyland. There's just so much talent there, and it really does kind of change the experience. The other thing I would say, if you are a huge fan of Disney World and you've been here many times and you've never been to land, you're going to discover that so many of your favorite attractions are actually better in Disneyland. There's a couple that ours are better than theirs, but for the most part, Pirates better in Disneyland. Big Thunder Mountain, well, we'll find out when it reopens. Maybe
Mm.
ours is going to be better now, but up until now, better in Disneyland. Uh, Haunted Mansion, I think, is I like theirs better than ours. So there's a lot of things you will be surprised by how uh, different and in some cases plussed up the Disneyland version of the attractions that you already know and love are. So I think that's another good reason to consider Disneyland as a
Yeah.
destination instead of Disney
Hmm.
World.
I will say, and I think Craig hit on it, the reason that I wanted to go to Disneyland was the nostalgia standpoint. There is a lot of nostalgia, so if you're dealing with someone who isn't a huge Disney lover and is really looking for the roller coaster kind of experience, Walt Disney World might be better in some
Mhm.
instances. I think, the question asked, "Why would you choose Disneyland?" I just to put the opposite point in, I think if you're not like I cried when I saw the Walt Disney animatronic. I mean, hearing him come to life and talk and all of that, it was just it's emotional to be where he was as someone who's on a Disney podcast and loves Disney. But if you're not that person, I get it. Like people were kind of rolling their eyes, some of the people, and like, well, where this isn't a real ride. What am I here for? Kind of a deal. So I think you need to have people really be realistic about what they're signing up for in Disneyland versus Disney World. And I think it's an interesting question in if you take people that don't have any Disney history, which one would you have them go to? Let's say they live in the middle of the country, they could get to either one, easier. I think it's an interesting question. And there'd be a lot of kind of caveats I'd put into why would I choose one or the other? And I think it's
Yeah.
interesting. I think it's a great question that June asked us.
We could probably do a whole episode about it. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
we have to move on to our
We have to
next
move on.
question, which is a related question, actually. And it is from Greenville Guy over on YouTube. And he asks, as an American, if I could only travel to one Disney park outside of the States, which park would you recommend and why? And I'm going to start off by saying that I don't think any of us have been to the parks in China. So, Hong Kong, Disneyland, and Shanghai, we've not been to those parks. So, cannot speak to those. Um, Eric and I have both been to Tokyo and to Paris. And I'm curious to hear what Eric would say. For me, I would say that the conventional wisdom, the answer that most people will give you who have been to both is that they would say you should do Tokyo. And the reason that they would say that, I think, is because it is true. Tokyo has Disney Sea is like nothing else in any Disney park in the world. It is its own thing. We did a whole video about it, so you can watch that and just sort of see what Disney Sea is all about. Um, but the best way I can think to describe Disney Sea is imagine if Epcot, where you do the World Showcase, instead of it being like this little teeny sliver of the world, it was an all encompassing like the way that Galaxy's Edge is, in it's that you're in that version of Italy, right? Where it's like
Mm,
you're surrounded by Italy. You can see the canals of Venice, and it's so that is incredible, and it's like nothing else. The park is pristine and they keep it perfect. I mean, you do not see animatronics that are not working. At least we never did. On any attraction, everything is in perfect order. Having said that, the park I can't wait to get back to is Paris. It's there is there's just so much heart to me in
mm,
Paris, and it was I think the origin of it is when they built Disneyland Paris, there was this paranoia amongst the Imagineers that they're in Europe now, right? Where storybook castles are everywhere. And the idea of a quaint storybook village is just a village, right? It's every country has these quaint storybook villages that are the real thing. So how do you do that Disney magic in a place where it's commonplace? And so they knew they had to really up the ante. And boy, oh boy, did they. And it's just, there's just so much love put into every single detail in that park. The castle, there's a waterfall coming out of the side of the
Mm.
castle, and there's a dungeon with a dragon that breathes smoke. And the it's Big Thunder Mountain is on its own island. You go under the water, to ride Big Thunder. Everything is just um plussed up, I feel like, is the best way to put it. And the other thing I feel about Paris is it feels to me like it is very much like Disneyland and Disney World. Whereas Disney Sea is a completely unique thing, Disneyland Paris does feel like a version of the parks that you know from the States. However, it is a perfected version, in my opinion. It's like they took Adventureland. They said, if we had twice as much land and twice as much budget, what would we do with it? How would we plus up Adventureland? If we could have, unlimited resources, what will we do with Fantasyland to make it, a true, larger than life Fantasyland? There's a maze, what do you call it? A hedge maze for the Alice in Wonderland attraction that is so cool. I mean, it's amazing. So I don't know. For me personally, I preferred Paris, even though I would say most people will tell you Tokyo. And Tokyo's great. I'm not knocking Tokyo, but Paris is where my heart is. What do you think, Eric?
I am with you. I I have I can't wait to go back to Disneyland Paris. Again, like Tokyo is amazing. Don't take me wrong. Like just the Beauty and the Beast attraction, like it still blows my mind. Like it's impressive. As you said, everything is perfect, but I don't know. I felt like a Disneyland Paris has a soul. Like it is
Mm.
it is beautiful. It might not be perfect, but I don't know. It's just like it feels nice like to be there.
One thing I do want to see in Disneyland Paris, because I'm a big fan of Sleeping Beauty, especially the artwork, is those cubed trees. That just
Mhm.
fascinates me that they actually made those. So that's just one of the things I have to see.
And
And
when you go inside the castle, they did these incredible stained glass windows, and it's actually the artisan that created those stained glass windows is the same artisan. I can't remember which. Multiple palaces in Europe were had their stained glass done by this same uh, artist. So
Hmm.
it really is. I mean, it is to the same quality as, one of the great palaces of Europe. And it's amazing. All right, Craig, what is our next question from Patreon?
yes, Jenny B asks, I'm coming to Disney World in February. I was wondering if the Epcot after hours is worth it. I have a couple of days for Epcot to take in the Festival of the Arts and the Broadway show, so it'll be to get my 10-year-old on the rides. But it also looks like Frozen will be down. What are your thoughts? So, if you're not familiar with the after hours events, each park has them usually in the off seasons, like the summer and the dead of winter, um, and they stay open a few hours later, but you have to pay extra for it. Um, I just checked like the prices for Epcot and the studios is 155, like starts at 155 a night per person, um, and the one from Magic Kingdom is a little more. The thing about Epcot, I think you're going to be fine without having to spend more money for the after hours at Epcot. Just have to remember, like, even with the Festival of the Arts, especially, like some things will open at 9 o'clock with the park, but the food booths and some other things won't even open till 11. So the morning is a great time to try to get some rides in, especially if you plan to use early entry and lightning lanes, which again will be significantly cheaper than spending $155 on a after hours ticket. Another reminder, World Showcase is shut down between Norway and France during the parties. One nice thing is about the parties, I would say if you're a huge Guardians fan, you want to ride over and over, that might be your best chance of doing that because from what I hear, the wait times are around 30 minutes, so you can get a few rides in. But still, in your scenario especially, I don't think you really need that. I think you'll be totally fine without it. And not a whole lot of rides. Frozen's down anyway. I would save your money for sure on that. Any other thoughts? Anyone else?
I
Yeah.
I have to say I love the after hours events except for Epcot. They really need to add something more because not even the whole world showcase is open. With Frozen down, they're probably not going to open up even to Norway. They used to open up to Norway so people could get
Mm.
to Frozen, but without Frozen being there, they're probably just going to block off that whole. I guess it'll end at Mexico probably because they'll still be able to do Grand Fiesta Tour. It The other parks all have something special for after hours. Magic Kingdom lately has been running Enchantment, which is so you'd be able to see two fireworks shows in the night. If you're a big fan of the fireworks, that's a huge cool thing, and it's incredibly expensive for them to run two fireworks shows a night. So that's a big
Mhm.
deal. Um, if you go to Hollywood Studios, characters galore and really unique characters. I recommend both of those after hours events. I think they're great. Epcot just doesn't have anything that special. In fact, they just take things away. So
Mhm.
I can't recommend the Epcot after hours, unfortunately, unless they jazz it up this year. Hopefully they will. Jessica, what is our next question from Patreon?
Well, Jen asks, has anyone here done the Droid building at Hollywood Studios? My nephew, who is 15 years old, says it's the one thing that he wants to do when we come in January. I'm a bit worried, though, that the experience in the final Droid will be less than spectacular for him. He's on a high school robotics team and very into computers and programming. Will the Droid be too basic for him? What is the quality of them? Thank you. So here's the deal. Big caveat here. It is like Legos. It is not robotics. The droids are Legos. You're sticking pieces together, like 6 pieces max. You're adding a little chip that is a pre-programmed that makes it talk in a certain way and respond in a certain way. You are not doing any robotics. You are not doing any programming. And in fact, you cannot program these droids. They are simply a step above from a remote control car. Quality wise, I think they're not bad quality. They're Disney quality. They're definitely better than a toy. I would say they're better than a toy quality of a car. They're better than that. But these are not robots. These are not computers. They are Lego, big oversized Legos. Now, does that mean he won't love it? No. But if he doesn't like Star Wars and he's doing it because he thinks he's building a robot, this is not for him. If he likes Star Wars, it is still an experience and it is fun to do. But it's not challenging his mind or in any way, shape, or form. I I don't recommend the droid building to teenagers or to kids that are not huge Star Wars fans. I don't. To me, it's not worth the money, and this is coming from me to say that. I just don't. So the other thing I will say is if you do it, you're committing to carrying a 20-pound robotic car with you through the parks, and sometimes they have a backpack that you can buy that's like $1,000. If it's like $100, it's ridiculous. Or you can pre-buy a backpack that you can carry it around the park. But it's a big hassle. Um, if you do not love Star Wars and you do not really want your own BB-8 unit or R2 unit, I'm not sure this is something. There's a lot of better things at Disney World that I would spend my money on.
Let me ask this though. I've never done the droid building experience. I've never been a part of it. I have, however, been able to be present during the lightsaber building
Not the same.
experience. I was gonna say because that is
Mm-mm.
wow, is it cool? It's definitely not robotics or anything, but it's super cool. So it's not like
There's
that.
not it's not as much of a show. It's more
Mhm.
like Legos you're picking, you're putting it's an assembly line. You're a droid builder and you're part of the droid builders and you're building your droid and you're putting your pieces together and let's give them a personality. It's and I would say 5 to 9-year-olds is a really key market, and then uber Star Wars fans. Those are your 2 markets. But 15-year-old boys on the high school robotics team, I don't think is your key market. Now, he really wants to do it. Maybe let him go watch them do it and then cancel if it's not what you want to do because you can cancel your appointment.
Okay, that's good to know.
You can cancel, I believe you should check online either 24 or 48 hours beforehand and get your money back. So I just think it may not be for him.
So if they do want to cancel though, they got to do it. It's not you can't cancel on the same day. You got to do it in advance.
Yeah, you got to do it in advance. Now, Disney's been probably pretty good, but now on the flip side, what you were getting to is the lightsaber experience, which is a step up in cost, is also a step up in experience. The lightsaber experience is a immersive experience, and you become a Jedi, and you are entranced in that feeling. And we haven't done it ourselves. Katie and my future son-in-law did it, and I've seen it done. It's something that it's amazing and worth every penny. If you're a Star Wars fan, even if you're just into that art and the immersion, and if that's something that matters to you, but this droid building is not that.
Yeah, I I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm not a super fan, but I grew up with Star Wars. I
Mm.
love Star Wars, and I had no interest in getting a lightsaber because I was just like, well, number one, I don't really want to carry the thing around the parks. That seems like a
Mhm.
hassle, and number two, I don't know what I would do with it when I got home. Like I don't have a use for a lightsaber. But I saw that experience and I gotta say, I
Mhm.
was like, I want to do this though. Like I want to have this experience with the Jedi master who's teaching you and it's just I mean it is a show. I mean
Mhm.
you feel like I was just watching it happen, but I felt like the kid that I was watching build it just had gosh, what a magical experience because things just kind of come alive from your
Mhm.
interacting with them and it's amazing. It's a really cool experience. So that is something that I would recommend to someone who's even just a casual Star Wars fan. If they're interested in having a lightsaber, do it. Like it is worth it. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish they would do that experience without you having to buy the lightsaber. Like a discounted one, if you just wanna build one and then
hmm
leave it in like, almost the show part of it, I wish
Yeah.
they would let you do that because I think and then kinda like they do in the Harry Potter wand experience, where if you're chosen, then you can buy that wand. I'm sure they
hmm
sell a lot of wands for that reason, right? I think they would sell more lightsabers if they didn't make you buy the lightsaber there, but you could do the experience and then you could add on your lightsaber.
Yeah.
How many of us would go through that experience and be moved and excited about the lightsaber we built and the experience we had becoming a Jedi and then purchase? I mean,
Mm.
if Disney's listening, that might be more money. You never can tell.
I think when they reach the point where they don't sell it out
That's
constantly,
true.
because I think it
Yeah.
does still sell out. So I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
was gonna
they
Yeah,
have
ask.
it's
to.
true. It's easier
But
to get than it used to be.
yes,
Much
it
easier to
is
get. It's
for sure.
much easier to get, and they
hmm
have had people outside willing to sign you up that day, the last couple
Yeah.
times I've been there, so
Yeah.
maybe we're this close, we're this
We're
close.
getting there.
We're getting
Mhm.
there.
Well, I've got a lightning lane question from the Ear Scouts forum over at earscouts.com from Ryan B, who asks, quote, I know you like to use a lightning lane as soon as possible to unlock it for other lightning lanes. If you're planning on rope dropping, does it make sense to ride something else before using your first lightning lane so you can get two short wait times? For example, if you have a lightning lane for Pirates of the Caribbean, early in the morning, should you rope drop Jungle Cruise first, or is it better to use your Lightning Lane for your first ride? So this is one of those things that there's so many ifs, thens. But as a general rule, I would your preference is to tap in somewhere immediately as a general rule, mainly because it's not so much that it's freeing you up to book another ride, it's more that it's freeing you up to have more than one tier 1 attraction. So if your goal is to get multiple tier 1 attractions booked early in your day, that's going to be much easier to do the quicker you unlock yourself and unlock the ability to have multiple tier 1 attractions. So with Lightning Lane, if you're not familiar, you're limited to just one tier 1 attraction. You can have two tier 2s, so you have 3 total. But once you tap in at anything, that unlocks the ability to have all 3 of your slots filled with tier 1 attractions. So if that's your goal, the other reason why I would say it's worth unlocking early is if you're planning to park hop and you want to start booking rides like Slinky in your second park, or really tough to book attractions in your second park. You cannot book attractions in other parks until you tap in. Now, if neither of those things are in your scenario, absolutely do, getting in line right away for Jungle Cruise makes a lot of sense because you don't have to book Jungle Cruise. That's one of the toughest rides to book. So, I mean, there are definitely lots of scenarios in which what you're describing makes perfect sense. Just go ahead and get the walk on for Jungle Cruise and then go tap in at Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not going to make a huge difference in your day. But if you're trying to get a lot of really tough to book stuff booked and you want it booked early, you're not willing to wait until later in the day to ride, then that would be the scenario. Or you're park hopping. That would be the scenario where maybe you want a burner attraction. And I hate this because I don't like using burner attractions, but it's a reality. You're doing Jungle Cruise. Guess what's right in front of Jungle Cruise? It's the magic carpets of Aladdin. And pretty easy sometimes to get a really early, maybe at park open, at rope drop Lightning Lane for Magic Carpets of Aladdin. Maybe you just want to tap in there as you're walking on over. I mean, you're still gonna be among the first in, and trust me, those cast members at Magic Carpets of Aladdin, they might give you a smirk. They know what's going on. They know how the game is played, and they will forgive you for bypassing their attraction and just using it to unlock yourself. It happens all the time. So that's another thing you could consider.
Mhm.
Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Any differences of opinion?
No, in that scenario, I agree with it. Now I'm kind of going against conventional wisdom on Christmas Day because I'm starting the day in Magic Kingdom and then moving to Epcot, and I just did all my lightning lanes at Epcot, and that's because Test Track was very important. I wanted to make sure we got Rob. Don't look at me like that. For those who are not watching, he just rolled his eyes so big at
I
me.
did not. No, I did not roll my eyes. I did it. I did a shock horror. I was shocked.
Okay. But yeah, that's what was more important to me. And then again, we'll get what we can on Christmas morning. Our expectations are very low. So we're just going to go with the flow. And that was a decision I made.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm of the opinion that if you can go and ride pirates, and then get Jungle Cruise, you're killing. You're not Jungle Cruise is not going to get that long in the time you go, you know, ding into pirates, ride it, and come back to Jungle Cruise, and then you've killed two birds with one stone. Is that right?
Mhm.
I almost said sword. Killed two birds with one sword, which I don't think is right. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're paying that much money for lightning lanes, you might as well tap into your first lightning lane as early as possible and get the ball moving, I guess, if you can. But that's it's so this is a so many there's so many scenarios, and it's so personal, and it's so trip dependent, and it's so ride dependent, and it's just that it's everything. In the particular case that he's talking about, I probably would have ridden pirates and then come back to Jungle Cruise. That's probably what I would have done, but that's just because I knew then that I could maybe get Jungle Cruise right after that, so or something. So I don't know. That's just me though.
In that scenario, I'd probably do what I said with magic carpets. I'd probably aim to get an immediate magic carpets, assuming that that's not, if you've got a group where magic carpets of Aladdin is going to be a key attraction during the day, then obviously don't do that.
Mhm.
Um, but but if you've got a group that's like, yeah, we can take or leave magic carpets of Aladdin, that's a pretty easy one sometimes to get, and just it's literally right there. I mean, it is
Mhm.
across from the entrance, so it's an easy one. Another one that's like that is in well, actually not anymore. It used to be that It's Tough to Be a Bug was a great one because it was right there at the entrance. You would always walk by it going to pretty much anything. Now it's Zootopia. Probably don't want to throw away your Zootopia lightning lane.
Do not throw away your Zootopia Lightning Lane
Yeah,
because
no.
it's typically at least a 2-show wait.
Craig, what is your next question?
Okay, well, I've got one here that we may be answering a little late, but better late than never. So, Claire on Patreon asks, what are your favorite phone battery chargers for the parks? I'm getting my mom one for Christmas, and I'd like to get her something smaller than my big old honking anchor battery. My budget is around $40. Now, just so everyone knows, we did get to answer this question for Claire on Patreon in enough time. But um, personally, my go to charger for the parks are the fuel rods. They're small, very portable. They have kiosks throughout the parks and the resorts, so you can just exchange an empty battery for a new one for free. Now, again, they are small. You can only get like maybe 30% charge out of them. But I think for most people, that's kind of all you need just to boost yourself until you can actually plug in. Plus, the option of being able to just exchange it if you really do need more. That's a big bonus. Uh, my other tip on top of that is buy them ahead of time. I just looked right now. You can get a package of 2 fuel rods from Amazon for $51 or 3 for $64. And that's a lot cheaper than the $40 you're going to pay if you just buy one in the parks or at the resort from the kiosk. Um, yeah, that has just become my go-to for the parks, just because they're nice and small.
Well, I am partial to the anchors, and I would say, you were talking about your big old honkin' anchor battery. Every generation gets lighter and thinner and smaller. So um anchor is pretty much it's one of the gold standards, I think, of that kind of item. Um so just check and see what the latest anchors look like, and you might be surprised that they're trimmer and more svelte than the one that you had from before. But yes, I actually haven't jumped on the fuel rod bandwagon initially because it didn't offer fast charging. There was only the
Mm.
USB-A, and that was just like a no, that was not going to work for me because I just have too many devices that I need to be charging quickly. But now they've upgraded them and they're USB-C and they're capable of fast charging. And I do think they have a little bit more juice in them. So I don't know. I would consider it. But I think depending on your use case scenario, depending on how many devices you need to keep juiced up. So if you've got like if your mom is going to be juicing up hers and her husband's and perhaps their teenage son, then um, it's possible that you would need multiple fuel rods to make that situation work. Jessica, what is your next question?
So we actually have a quick one from Nicole Sagittarius. She asks, "Are those progressive lens glasses? I'm going to be getting them and was wondering if you put 3D glasses over them for the 3D rides or take them off." And yes, I do have progressive glasses because, as we've discussed multiple times, I'm old, which I enjoy that. When I got my first progressive lenses 2 years ago, and it took about 6 months, and now I can't imagine my life without them, but I always still put the 3D glasses right on top. I will say the only time it's a little hard is like on Flight of Passage when you go look down and look up. because you're changing which lens you're looking through. Sometimes that's a little bit wonky for me, but in general, I still put the 3D glasses right on top. I think that's the ideal situation. If you can see okay without your glasses, I think the 3D experience probably is better without them. But in general, I just put my 3D glasses right on top of my progressive lenses.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions this week. But if you have a question you'd like us to answer, let us know in the comments on one of our Ear Scouts videos on YouTube, or join us live at patreon.com/Ear Scouts. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can hear the answer if we're able to include it. Before we go, however, we have one last segment that we like to call Happy Thoughts, where we share a little pixie dust here at the end of the show. Jessica, what is your happy thought this week?
So my happy thought is, we love the Contemporary. We do love the Contemporary. We stayed at Bay Lake Tower, and I kind of jokingly said to John, it was the best night's sleep I've ever had. And we agreed to get each other our Christmas present this year of the Bring Home the Magic Beauty Rest mattress. And we now have, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get it here. It does have a white glove service. And we now have the same mattress complete with a tag on it that says the Disney Deluxe mattress. It's very exciting. I took a picture. I will be scrapbooking that. But we now have the same mattress in our house as we had when we were in the Bay Lake Tower. And that was our Christmas present to each other. And I feel I feel like I am bringing home the magic. So if you're interested, you go to Beauty Rest and you look for Bring Home the Magic. It was super fun, and it's a little thing. We needed a mattress anyway, but what a great kind of magical way to bring home a little bit of Disney World straight to Connecticut.
Craig, what is your happy thought this week?
I'm just feeling really blessed right now because I have so many that I could have chosen from for this. But I'm going to talk about the fact that my work schedule is kind of changing. So I should have a little like more blocks of free time. So hopefully that means I can make more um, trips down to Orlando and learn. I wasn't joking when I said I'll drive the Lynx bus. That's the kind of thing I love doing. I love like checking things out and like reporting back to people. So that's why I love being able to do this podcast. But again, that's my happy thought. I am staying off property. I can't wait to try it out.
I promise you, Craig, it's not fun. especially especially if you miss it. Like you can wait between 20 minutes to an hour just
Oh wow.
for the next one to get here. So it's
Yeah.
not very
At
good.
that point, I just abandoned ship and call Uber. So yeah.
Eric, what is your happy thought this week?
Looking at your mug, it just reminds me of my Fort Wilderness mug that I had that unfortunately it broke. But today, when I went to Cast Connections, which is one of the stores for cast members, I was able to find it for a very nice price. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm
yay.
very happy to get one again. And yeah, that's my happy thought.
Well, my happy thought this week is about one of our announcements that came from the 12 Days of Scouting Surprises. And that is that we announced the first ever Ear Scouts cruise aboard the Disney Fantasy in February of 2027. We had an overwhelmingly amazing response to that announcement. So tons of people have requested more information about the cruise, and several have already booked their staterooms. So I just really wasn't sure how that was going to go over. If people were going to be excited about the idea of an Ear Scouts Disney cruise, and I'm delighted that so many people have signed up for more information. So if you would like to get more information about our Disney cruise adventure in February of 2027, head on over to earscouts.com/cruise to learn more about it. And that is a wrap on our podcast for 2025. We'll see you again in 2026. Until then, keep thinking happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.